All right, let's jump right in. Think about it. So much of our lives, from work to our personal stuff, it's all in the cloud now. And, wherever we go, crime is never far behind. But this is a totally different kind of crime scene. The rulebook that digital detectives have been using for years, it's being torn up and rewritten from scratch. We're talking about forensics in a place you can't even touch.
So that leads us to the big question, right? How in the world do you solve a crime that doesn't happen in a physical place, but in the cloud? I mean, this is the puzzle that has everyone, investigators, lawyers, even the big tech companies, scrambling. Because, the evidence isn't on a hard drive you can just grab anymore. It's scattered all over the globe in different data centers.
Okay, before we get too deep, let's just make sure we're on the same page here. What even is digital forensics? Well, at its heart, it's all about telling a story. It's the science, and maybe a bit of an art, of looking at a computer or a file and piecing together exactly what happened. Who did what and when. It's all about reconstructing the past from these tiny digital breadcrumbs. So, to really get why the cloud is such a game changer, we've got to first look back at how things used to be done. Let's talk about the old school toolkit for digital detectives.
And really, the best way to think about traditional forensics is like digital archaeology. Seriously, investigators were basically sifting through the digital ruins on a physical device, a laptop, a server, you name it. They were looking for these little fragments of information left behind.
And what's so fascinating is what they were looking for. They were basically feasting on the digital scraps that systems left behind. Their entire world was built around analyzing these leftovers, using clever tricks like file carving, which is literally carving out files from a raw data dump, and trying to recover data that was supposedly deleted. They were masters of finding treasure in what was essentially digital trash.
But here's the thing. Even before the cloud really took over, this whole model was starting to fall apart. You've got modern solid-state drives, SSDs, that actively wipe data clean when you delete it. So recovery? Almost impossible. And encryption is everywhere now. It's standard. The main point here is that the core idea of traditional forensics, making a perfect bit-by-bit copy of a hard drive, was basically on life support.
And then the cloud happened. And it didn't just complicate things a little bit. Oh no, it completely changed the game. The crime scene wasn't a box on someone's desk anymore.
And this move to the cloud wasn't some slow, gradual process. It was a tidal wave. I mean, look at this. By 2015, almost every single business was already using the cloud in some way. What that means is that the place where all the important evidence lives shifted, almost overnight, from local servers to these massive distributed cloud platforms. And this is the new crime scene. An investigator can't just walk in and say, seize the server anymore. It doesn't work like that. The data lives in this stack of different layers, from the physical hardware that the cloud provider owns, all the way up to the app you're actually using. And here's the kicker. Who controls each layer determines everything about what evidence you can even hope to get. This table really breaks down the challenge. So with infrastructure as a service, or IaaS, the customer still has some control over the operating system, so you can use some of the old tricks. But as you move up that stack to software as a service, we're talking about things like Gmail or Microsoft 365. The user controls, well, basically nothing. The only evidence you can get your hands on is whatever the cloud provider decides to give you in their logs.
Okay, so if the old methods are useless and you can't even get to the hardware, does that mean cloud forensics is just impossible? Well, not exactly. And this is where the whole story takes a really interesting twist. The very nature of evidence itself is changing.
I know this sounds completely backward, right? How could it get easier? But some of the top researchers in this field argue that, believe it or not, reconstructing what happened in the cloud should be easier than the old way. The biggest roadblocks aren't technical anymore. They're legal. It's about getting access.
So why? Why would it be easier? Well, it's simple, really. Some of these cloud apps record, well, everything. Think about it. To run these huge, complex global services and to debug them when things go wrong, the providers have to log pretty much every single user action with incredible detail. It's a goldmine for an investigator if you can get to it.
And this right here is the big aha moment. Check this out. A tool called Draftback actually figured out that Google Docs records every single character change, every keystroke. You can literally replay the entire creation of a document from start to finish. From a forensics point of view, that is a time travel machine. There's no such thing as deleting something in a Google Doc, because the entire history of changes is the document.
So this is the fundamental point, the huge paradigm shift we're talking about. We're moving away from what we called artifact-centric forensics, sifting through digital leftovers, to something completely different, log-centric forensics. We've gone from being digital archaeologists trying to piece together a story from broken pottery to being analysts with access to a perfect, detailed flight data recorder that shows exactly what happened.
Now, this massive shift from artifacts to logs means the old toolkit is pretty much junk. Investigators need a whole new set of tools, a new mindset, to deal with this new kind of evidence. The future isn't about looking for scraps on someone's laptop anymore. No, the future is plugging directly into the cloud service itself. Investigators are going to have to learn to speak the language of the cloud, and that language is APIs, application programming interfaces. It's how all these services talk to each other.
And the workflow is just so much smarter. It's more like being a surgeon with a scalpel than a construction worker with a shovel. You connect through the API, you ask for the exact data you need using the service's own tools, and then you download only that. No more wasting time and resources copying terabytes of junk just to find one critical file.
And looking even further down the road, as the amount of data just keeps exploding, it's going to become physically impossible to download all the evidence. So what's the solution? It's something called forensics as a service. The big idea here is that instead of bringing the data to your lab, you bring your lab to the data. The forensic tools themselves have to become cloud services that run right next to the evidence.
And just when we think we're starting to get a handle on all this, there's another, even bigger wave building on the horizon.
Just think about it. The Internet of Things. Billions and billions of devices. Your watch, your car, your fridge, all connected, all generating logs all the time. The amount of data is going to be a tsunami. There's no way human analysts can keep up with that. Which leaves us with a really big question for the future of justice, doesn't it? Is automating forensics, maybe with AI, just a cool idea? Or is it the only way forward? And what does a world like that even look like?